To be honest with you, I think I could have done a little bit better. All right, it's Tickets Please Reviews. It's time to review how well we did in predicting the Oscar nominations in 2023. In the past couple years, we ended up getting at least 85% in the Big Six and at least 76% overall. Can we maintain or even improve, or will this wild and crazy year prove to be a little bit too much for me? Once again, we review using the Oscar map I did last time. The shorts are first, and we go down the line to Best Picture. Films in italics are the ones I got wrong, and films that are underlined are the ones that ended up making it in the official nominations. Now, if you don't see either one of those things to an entry, it means it made the cut, and I'm correct on that one. And let's kick things off with those shorts. In the animated shorts category, we got 3 out of 5 right. I missed both New Moon and Save Ralph. Both My Year of Dicks, over under a week before a Fox News think piece comes out on it, and Ice Merchants both did finish in the top 10 of my predictions. So we were off, but it wasn't a one crazy off. Now we take a look at the documentary shorts, and that was not a pretty sight at all. Only got the Martha Mitchell effect and Stranger in the Gates correct. Both The Elephant Whispers and How Do You Measure a Year did make the top 10. But I don't think Fallout did. No, that's definitely an Oscar shocker to me. Got to do a little bit better than 2 out of 5 correct. And we take a look at the live action shorts, only 3 out of 5 right again. Not a good sign. Nakam and Warshaw missed out here, but Ivalu was in the top 10. Night Ride, however, was not, which is another shocker. And now we head off to the audio categories, now that we're done with the shorts. And surprise, surprise, sound gives us some good news as we were perfect 5 for 5 here. No need to elaborate further. Good news that we could use. And scores, well, we got a couple of surprises as both Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio and Women Talking missed out. In its place are 2 Oscar frontrunners and the Fablemans in Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Next off, we go to Best Song. I went for 4 for 5 as Ciao Papa misses out from Pinocchio. Instead, Oscar voters went with David Byrne's This Is a Life from Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. It's looking like a good day for that film. And can Pinocchio end up only for Best Animated Film? It's starting to appear this way. Now that we're done with the audio portion of Oscar, let's take a look at the visual categories. And we kick things off with film editing. And this is where you will have your Oscar frontrunners, the ones most likely to win Best Picture. Because at the very least, you have to have a nomination in order to win the Big Picture. And All Quiet on the Western Front does not make the final 5 in its place as Tar. Could the talk about the apathy towards that film have been overblown? Maybe. However, 2 of the 3 frontrunners, The Banshees of Inisherin and Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, did make the cut. Perhaps Elvis or Top Gun Maverick could surprise. I wouldn't roll those pictures out yet. Now we head over to cinematography, where we get 3 for 5 as well, as both The Fablemans and Top Gun Maverick failed to make the cut. Instead, they went with Bardo and Tar. I wonder who wins that one now, as I had the Top Gun sequel ahead, heading into the nominations. Perhaps it ends up going to Everything, Everywhere, All at Once? On the visual effects, I did go 4 for 5, as the one I missed was 13 Lives. Showing up in its place is All Quiet on the Western Front. And it makes sense to me. Now we take a look at production design again for 4 for 5. Black Panther Wakanda Forever misses out as All Quiet on the Western Front makes the cut. Perhaps this film will do better than I expected. Over in costume design, I end up getting a perfect 5 for 5. As it turned out, Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris was the right call there. And last but not least, we tackled makeup and hairstyling. As it turns out, we only got 3 for 5, as Babylon and Blonde both missed the cut. All Quiet on the Western Front and Black Panther Wakanda Forever both show up here to take their spots. Now that we're done with the visual categories, it's time to take a look at the other Best Pictures. For animated feature, we got 4 out of 5. I missed Inuo. Instead, it was one of the Netflix films taking at 5th spot. Not Wonder Woman Wild, not My Father's Dragon, but The Sea Beast. That's certainly interesting. Meanwhile, over a documentary feature, I went 3 for 5 as both Descendant and The Territory missed. Instead, the voters went with Navalny and House Made of Splitters. I shouldn't let my personal opinion dictate my prediction for Navalny. It did reach pretty much every one of those precursors. As for House of Splitters, on the other hand, it definitely did not make my top 10. So, yeah, this is definitely a shocker. Now we head over to International Feature. And I'm going 4 for 5 there as The Quiet Girl made the cut. But not in the place of EO, which I kind of was thinking it would. Instead, it took the spot of Decision to Leave. This is a big surprise, as I thought the Park Chan-wook film would make the final 5 for sure. Now that we're done with the other Best Pictures, let's take a look at the screenplay nominations. Over at Adapted Screenplay, we got 3 out of 5 right. The Whale missing out on USC's Screenplay Awards would be a deal breaker. But what's the excuse for She Said? It hit pretty much everything, including making the cut in the USC. It didn't matter. The voters wanted Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery, and Top Gun Maverick instead. Heading over to Original Screenplay, nothing really we could talk about here. They went 5 for 5. As it turns out, swapping Triangle Sadness for After Sun turned out to be a shrewd move. This concludes the screenplay nominations. Let's see how well I did with the acting categories. In Best Supporting Actor, only went 3 for 5. Both Eddie Redmayne and Paul Dano didn't make the cut at the end of the day. Instead, we get another shocker to field as Brian Tyree Henry made it. His performance in Causeway was widely praised, but he looked like a long shot for supporting actor. And presumably instead of Dano, we get Judd Hirsch, his co-star. Supposedly he made the cut for one big scene he was in. Kind of reminds me of Dame Judi Dench when she got nominated for Shakespeare in Love for about 5 to 6 minutes of work. It must have been one heck of a scene. Oh, and for those wondering, Dench won for that performance. I don't think Ke Huy Quan's in any danger, but I'll just keep that in mind. Now we take a look at Best Supporting Actress, where we end up getting 4 out of 5. The only one we missed was Dolly De Leon for Triangle Sadness. Unfortunately, it appears that big day of theirs kind of sank just then. Instead, we end up with a female version of The Banshees of Inisherin, as Stephanie Hsu makes it for Everything Everywhere All at Once, along with co-star Jamie Lee Curtis. She was my number 6 in the predictions video, so it's about as close to getting it right without actually getting it right. A similar result in Best Actors, again we go 4 for 5. We missed Tom Cruise in Top Gun Maverick as he didn't make the cut. Instead, it's Paul Mescal for After Sun. Much like Hsu, he was my number 6. I'm a little nervous as we check in with Best Actress, and, well, we did just fine as only Danielle Deadwater failed to make the top 5 for Till. Instead, the one that we all thought wasn't going to make it turned out to make it as Michelle Williams shows up here for The Fabelmans. As it turns out, Anna de Armas did make it for one, which means now I'll have to watch the movie. Joy. And wait, is that Andrea Riseborough? Did she make the top 5 for To Leslie? I suspect this means we'll be getting more of these in the future. Anyway, now we're down to 2 categories. Let's take a look at Best Director before wrapping things up with Best Picture. We ended up finishing 3 for 5 for Best Director. My gambles of Edward Berger making the field as a foreign nominee were sound, but instead they chose Ruben Östlund instead. Less sound was my thinking that Todd Field would miss the cut, and swapping him out for Joseph Kosinski for Top Gun Maverick. I mean, I get the skeptics on Tar, but as it turns out, they were going to get him to miss. After all, he did have all those precursors working for him. Although it's a shame there are no women in the top 5, but diversity is going to take time and hard work for it to become a thing in the Academy, and in films in general. At least the acting nominees are more diverse than they have been. Last but not least, over in Best Picture, we end up with 7 for 10 as my gambles in the final 3 spots all struck out. At least all 3 of them were understandable. Black Panther got a PGA nod, and thanks to Angela Bassett's wins, perhaps it could have done the same thing we thought would happen with The Whale and Brendan Fraser. The Whale, speaking of which, had some momentum between the SGA and PGA awards, perhaps enough to take one of the final spots. And finally, I kind of thought Triple R would have enough support in the preferential ballot system to make the top 10. Instead, again, I overthought Tar would not make the cut. Women Talking does show up here, but with only 3 nominations, its chances of winning are pretty low. The same can be said for the final entry, Triangle of Sadness, in reference to both the number of nominations and the odds of actually making the cut. So let's take a look at the predicted total nominations and compare it to what actually happened. Apparently I underestimated Everything Everywhere All at Once, Tar, and Triangle of Sadness, while overestimating Top Gun Maverick and The Whale. So bottom line, how'd I do? Over at the Big 6, I plunged from 88.6% just last year to 71.4% this year. Ugh. In some cases, it was a matter of bad beat, like Paul Mescal and Stephanie Sue. In other cases, like Tar and Todd Field, I made some unwise gambles that did not pay off. Overall, I went from 76.7% last year to just 72.5% this year. I think it's a direct relation to how poorly I did in the Big 6. Get the same number right as last year, and I'm up to 77.5%, an actual improvement from the last couple of years. This wraps things up, at least until it comes time to predict the winners in early March. This is Tickets Please Reviews, and the booth is now closed.